Now, if you go back to the idea that anything that you have learned or anything that's in your mind for more than about 2 to 3 months, your body sees as normal and will seek to maintain it. And you take somebody from a theater of combat, and they've been there for months, and then you bring them back to the United States and say, don't think about that now. You know, this is a whole different world over here. You don't have to be on alert. I heard a story yesterday about a guy that came back. He was a first sergeant, from what I overheard, in Iraq. And he came back. His 3-year-old wouldn't listen to him. Okay? Well, his 3-year-old had to listen, because if you don't listen, you die. And they said, well, you know, look around. How crazy are you? He wasn't crazy at all. What he had learned, he hadn't unlearned. We don't help people unlearn so that they can get back. I talked to guys from Vietnam. In fact, I talked to a guy the other day. I said I was talking to an old Vietnam vet, and he said, all Vietnam vets are old, which I took exception to. But they're still mad. And so I was in a group with them, and I said, is your anger justified? You know, yes it is. I agree with you, it is justified. Is it reasonable that the things that occurred to you, the respect that you got or lack of respect that you got back, should have made you angry? Absolutely, it should have made you angry. You know, don't disagree with it. Will anger kill you? Yes, it will. And so then the job becomes, let's figure out how you learned to be angry, because anger and violence is trained in the military, and it's an essential component. It's really difficult to imagine being in Sunday school killing people. Much easier to imagine if you dehumanize them and you're angry. They're the enemy. And I don't care what you did in the military, whether you were frontline combat or whether you flew a desk in St. Louis, your training was the same. Everyone is eligible to be put in harm's way when you go in the military. Even the conscientious objectors. I heard stories about conscientious objectors that went to Vietnam. And they would be there and they'd try to issue them weapons, and they'd say, no, I'm a conscientious objector. And they'd say, okay, good enough. So let's form up, we're going to go out on patrol. And I said, no, you don't understand. I don't believe in guns. I'm a conscientious objector. And they said, fine, don't carry a gun. Just get in line, we're going on patrol. But you don't understand. They said, no, you don't understand. You know, here, our job is this. You can believe whatever you want to believe. That's fine. On your time, you can think whatever you want to think. On our time, you will go on patrol. Now, whether that's actually a true story or an urban myth, I think it's a pretty fair representation of the expectation of being a member of the military service. And we train it. We use it, we encourage it in the military. In the civilian world, it's unlawful. Okay, so we're going to take one of the things that we train personnel the most in, and we're going to bring them back here and make it illegal, and expect them to forget it right off the bat, without the understanding that what they've done, what's in their mind for more than about 2 or 3 months, is normal. And that's where they do that. We're not untraining them. Individuality in the military is not valued. Team is the constant goal. You're always evaluated on your ability to be part of the team. You're always, and it doesn't matter, and this, what I'm talking about here is gender neutral. I don't care whether you're male or female, doesn't matter whether you're gay or straight, doesn't matter. It's part of a team. And that's the goal. In the civilian world, individuality is a goal, team is a concept. Okay, we talk about team all the time. There's no I in team. Well, that's kind of a military concept. But we're going to encourage individual thinking. Until you get higher up in the ranks in the military, you're not encouraged to think for yourself. You know, if I wanted you to think, soldier, I ought to give you a strike. We'll move them up to do that. The military is largely a male dominant, and sexism is an underlying tension, always. The thing that even people that I closely associate with don't accept this fact. Right now, I have more males who were sexually abused in the military than females that I work with. Remember, not everybody that went into the military was emotionally stable. When you take individuals, and see, in the military, we talk about this in group, I didn't put it here, adolescence is encouraged. In the military, the adolescent attitude is encouraged. The gang mentality is encouraged. You know, as long as we're together, as long as we're a bunch, you cannot hurt us. But within that adolescent acting out mentality are a certain number of people who are going to abuse that. When we have ignored the culture, we've ignored the fact that the military to a large degree is sexist because it's been male pretty much all the way through. We ignore that and decide that because we've legislated a change, we've changed the attitudes and the minds of the members. They've been indoctrinated. Remember, anything that's gone on in the mind for more than about 2 or 3 months is normal, and you'll seek to maintain it. So you take somebody who has been in the military for a fair amount of time, and you change the rules on them, and I really don't care what the rule is that you decide to change, and tell them they have no choice but to accept it, and the civilians are the ones who said you have to change it. You're going to have a problem, and we do. See, I believe one of the things that is absolutely inappropriate is that the idea of gays in the military should not even be discussed in the civilian population. Because to be real honest, it's none of your business. There's been gays in the military forever. We have no rules for or against them until Bill Clinton put in the don't ask, don't tell. Okay? One of the things, whether you like it or not, one of the qualities of adolescents is they tend to be kind of homophobic. I mean, we've even tried to legislate that. We've tried to say, no, 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 you can't be that anymore. We're going to have, you know, all of this training and everything. But still, there's a great deal of that in the adolescent population. The military gets most of its people from the adolescent population. Now, I'm not making a comment on whether it should be or shouldn't be or anything else. I'm just saying that unless you understand that culture, to pass a law to have Lady Gaga talking about what military policy ought to be, I think is largely as inappropriate as you can be. But there are certain things within that culture that you need to control. But I think when it comes to certain topics, it's not open for discussion. Equality is not a norm. Military is not about equality. It's very difficult to maintain the idea that I will kill you, but we're all equal. No, my unit, I was in the Navy, we've got the SEALs. Okay? Which carries a lot of weight unless you're in the Army and they got the Rangers or the Air Force and they've got, you know. But the idea is that you're expected in this to excel. In this team group, don't think for yourself mentality, we want you to excel. And we teach that very well. People take tests for promotion. They get better at shooting. They get better at leadership. They go to leadership schools and they do these things with the understanding that as you move up, you're going to use that. In the civilian world, equality is a cultural expectation. To the point that we will take away excellence so that somebody doesn't get their feelings hurt. In the military, we'll kick you out. You know, we will take something, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying it's the way it is. We're going to take you in and enculturate you, make you part of the group, and if things don't go well, we'll kick you out. Because in the military, we don't have to like you. We expect you to do your job. When I retired at the end of 23 years, I had a number of capacities. I was a training officer, admin officer, had been an officer in charge, been a commanding officer. I'd been in charge of all kinds of things. When I went to drill, or when I went to a training evolution, I was somebody. I had stripes on my arm, people saluted. When I went home, I was just a guy. These guys come back from combat, and they have the power of life and death. They have watched each other, they've taken care of each other, and they get back and the neighbor calls in because the dog's barking. You know, what are you, because what's gone on in the mind for more than about 2 or 3 months is normal, and we'll seek to maintain it. This is a team. And then they come home and there isn't a team there. And they really feel disenfranchised. So when they go in and they go for help, then it is really difficult because, first of all, they're having to admit that there's a problem, and they've been trained not to have problems. Because if you have problems, you're going to be taken out of the unit, you may be sent to the rear or sent home. You don't want to do that. That's your unit. So we're indoctrinated not to seek help. And yet now when we're coming back, they're getting people that are service connected for some disabilities before they ever get demoted. We've got a guy that I work with that's going to be mobile. He's deploying soon. When he got back from his last deployment, he had kind of bunged up his knee and he had a head cold. So they gave him a 10% disability for sinusitis. And he said, I got a head cold. Well, that's okay. You'll appreciate this sometime. They sent him a check once a month for his 10% disability for sinusitis, and didn't really bother with the knee. And he wanted him to look at it, but he didn't really want him to do much with it because it probably would have made him not deploy. So he's, was caught in a real quandary there. So this is not an exhaustive list of the differences between military and civilian, but hopefully it gives you an idea of how we train military personnel that is radically different than the civilian way.